It's a horse collar. Let's see this.
Oh, yeah. How do you not see that? That is pretty blatant, I think.
It is, Jim. The horse collar should have been called. Fortunately, missed the horse collar. Now you have an intentional grounding. He's looking around for the flag. Oh, my gosh. Does not exist. That should have been a penalty. Look at, he's holding him the whole time.
Yeah, usually you get a tug on a jersey like that, it's automatic.
That was probably a penalty. It didn't look like a ton of hold, did it?
It's a 7th penalty already against the Bills. Big part of the story for them so far in this game.
Ball came out. If that's a catch, this game is over.
John Hockley totally screwed the Buffalo Bills in their loss versus the Eagles. 11 penalties for 80 yards compared to the Eagles' 4 penalties for 30 yards, of which 10 of the 11 penalties for the Bills happened in the first half. In this video, we're not only going to review the calls against the Buffalo Bills, we're going to review the non-calls against the Eagles. In the second play of the game, you're going to notice Leonard Floyd get pressure on Jalen Hurts. And what happens here? Watch the jersey pull of the Philadelphia Eagles, holding Leonard Floyd, one of the top sack leaders in the NFL, from getting to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts does escape and throw the ball away, but this should have been chalked up as a sack. And mind you, look where they would have been. Football is the game of field position. They would have been backed up at their goal line. Mitch Morse was called for a false start on this play, and during the game, they said that he moved the ball pre-snap, and then Tony Romo and Jim Nantz said that it was Dion Dawkins that was actually having the false start. But you can clearly see no one moves the ball. It was a silent count. Dion Dawkins, and everything flowed so smoothly. The simultaneous movement from the defensive lineman and Dion Dawkins, the D lineman actually moved before Dion Dawkins. This to me is clearly not a false start. Here we have Gabe Davis getting contacted well before the ball gets there. You could slow it down here, and contact made. The ball is clearly not there, and no flag was thrown. The Eagles were penalized 5 times in this game, 3 of which were false starts, which are non-disputable because it really disrupts the play and everyone can see it. The pass interference was negated because of an offensive holding by the Buffalo Bills, as well as the roughing the passer on Josh Allen, in which he had to act in order to get the call. Why is it that the refs were so keenly sharp on the Buffalo Bills penalties but not the Philadelphia Eagles? It's like they had a blind eye towards the Eagles penalties.
Face mask, kicking team.
Here's the face mask call on Sierra Neal, and I'll admit this was a face mask, but still the refs having such a sharp eye against the Buffalo Bills, but missing so many calls against the Philadelphia Eagles, and we have a lot more to review.
Holding, defense number 31.
This defensive holding on Rasul Douglas just shows you how tick-tacky they were against the Buffalo Bills. And yes, I guess technically there was holding on this play, but it was hardly anything. You can actually see Rasul Douglas's hand. Rasul Douglas does have his hand on the arm of Devontae Smith, but you could see it's loose. He's not really even pulling on it. His hand is just loose. It's just on Devonta Smith. It's not really disrupting anything. And we see this all the time in the NFL, defenders with their hand on the wide receiver. And we're going to see clips of the Eagles doing it against us later in this game. And the ball wasn't even thrown this direction. The ball was thrown to A.J. Brown.
Hands to the face. Defense number 91.
Ed Oliver getting called for illegal hands to the face on this play, and really puts them at the 1-yard line, and they use the tush push to score their first touchdown of the game. And we're going to clearly see it wasn't just Ed Oliver with the illegal hands to the face. Their offensive lineman is holding Ed Oliver, grabbing his shoulder pad, clearly a holding call, clearly another situation that should have been offsetting penalties by both teams. Therefore, this play should have never stood. They should have replayed the down. You can even see the Eagles player with his hands up, doing his own acting, yelling at the ref. The other angle of the offensive lineman looking back at the ref, pointing at his helmet, trying to get the call from the referee, in which they do throw the flag. It seems to me that Sean Hockley is only throwing the flag when players complain. And looking at this further, this was not the only hold on this play. Check out number 25, who gets held in his arm wrapped around Dotson, and we're going to see Dion Dawkins get called exactly for the same play, but Dion Dawkins was called for holding, in which the Eagles weren't.
Teams on the play. Holding, offense number 73. Before the pass was thrown, holding, defense number 31. These fouls offset.
offsetting penalties on the very next offensive drive for the Buffalo Bills, which should have been offsetting on that last penalized play for the Bills. Offsetting penalties here is just unbelievable, and we're going to see Dion Dawkins get called for the hold. I mean, very, very ticky-tacky. I mean, Dion Dawkins does his part. I don't really see any holding, just using his arm length, driving the player out of the play.
Holding, defense number 31. These fouls offset.
Sean Hockley calling offsetting penalties for the Eagles, an offensive hold for the Bills, and pass interference for the Philadelphia Eagles, but he really should have called it the play before for the Bills. Really, it's more acting by the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line there. See him throw his hands up, pointing at the ref, trying to get the call. Another non-call against the Eagles. They were not called once for holding during this game, and I saw several instances where they were holding. We can clearly see Ed Oliver here grabbing the pads of Ed Oliver. Look at the jersey pull on Ed Oliver, trying to get in there. Go through the entire game and not get called for holding is absolutely unbelievable. Saw it, Leonard Floyd, very beginning of the game, holding, actually pulling his jersey. Right here on Ed Oliver again, pulling his jersey. The illegal hand to the face on Ed Oliver. He was being held and pulled on his shoulder pad.
Holding, offense number 66.
All these calls missed by the Philadelphia Eagles, but then they're going to call Connor McGovern for holding on this play. Unbelievable. Even Tony Romo said there wasn't much of holding at all, and it was kind of a sell again by the defensive line doing their own acting to seem like they were being held. That was just a great play by Connor McGovern, actually slapping him down to the ground. There was no holding going on this play. Even after the play, you could see Connor McGovern in his frustration, wondering why he ever got called for this. Another non-call by the Eagles here, and look at this ferocious hit on Dalton Kincaid directly to his head. This easily and should have been called for a defenseless receiver and get a penalty, but obviously Sean Hockley turning a blind eye for the Eagles. Look at the direct hit to Dalton Kincaid's head. Sherfield versus Darius Slay clearly gets hit before the ball gets there. Actually has already made contact with Trent Sherfield. The ball's not there. Ball's not there. Ball's not there. Ball finally gets there, and he made contact that entire time. Clearly pass interference, and it did not get called. Darius Slay's helmet actually turns and hits the back of Trent Sherfield right there. Already contact is made. Again, the ball is still not there. Look at the hand on Trent Sherfield pulling his arm back. The ball's still not there. Ball's still not there. Ball is almost there. Finally hits him in the chest, and we can clearly see this was pass interference and no excuse because the referee was right there looking at it. Unbelievable non-call. Tony Romo, Jim Nantz, and Gene Salator all saying that this should have been a horse collar call, and it wasn't called. Even Josh Allen getting up, pointing at the ref, wondering what is going on, and it happened again right in front of the ref's face. This is no excuse for the ref to not see this. We're going to see Hassan Reddick come in, grab the back of Josh Allen's jersey, and horse collar him to the ground, and sure enough, again, right in front of the ref. Blatantly obvious, right in front of the ref, does not get called. And to boot, Josh Allen gets called for intentional grounding on this play. There's another slow down angle of it with the ref staring right at the hand on the back of Josh Allen's horse collar tackle here. Unbelievable. Just unreal that this was not called.
Ball did not reach the line of scrimmage. This is intentional grounding by the quarterback.
I did my own lip reading here of Sean McDermott, and it looks like he says, I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about the horse collar. Read his lips here. Not concerned about that. I'm concerned about the horse collar.
Offense number 73.
As we saw, the Philadelphia Eagles offensive lineman arm bar Ed Oliver. Look what happens here with Dion Dawkins. The same sort of play, but Dion Dawkins gets called for holding. Dion Dawkins' arm gets wrapped around the back of the defensive lineman there. He gets called for holding, exactly what the Philadelphia Eagles did. Why is it that Dion Dawkins gets called for this and the Eagles did not? And in overtime, a non-call on Stephon Diggs, one of the most blatant, obvious penalties that I've seen so far this season, and it was not called. Even Stephon Diggs throwing his hand up, asking for the penalty, but the refs didn't get it to us. After all the acting and pointing and bickering by the Eagles, talking to the refs, every time they did it, the refs threw the flag. But when the Bills did it, the refs did not throw the flag. Look at all the contact being made here, and then the tug on his jersey, actually holding his arm away. We're going to get a better angle of it. Pulling his jersey, keeping Stefon Diggs' arm away. He only could have one arm on it. Look at this. Just unbelievable. Clearly pass interference in overtime on Darius Slay that the refs refused to call. Another non-call by the refs in overtime here. Josh Allen gets hit late out of bounds. Contacts Josh Allen out of bounds. That was just unnecessary roughness against Josh Allen. I know he didn't hit him hard, but clearly touching Josh Allen as he's going out of bounds. That normally and could be a penalty, and I've seen that called a lot in the NFL. But again, against the Bills, it was not called. As if penalties were not enough, the Buffalo Bills strip the ball in overtime and get the fumble recovery, but the refs declare it as an incomplete pass. A.J. Brown catches it. He possesses it, tucks it, turns upfield, puts 2 feet on the ground. Dotson strips the ball out and it gets recovered by A.J. Epinesa, but of course the refs call it incomplete. Look at this in real time. The ball clearly comes out, it gets recovered. Even A.J. Brown's reaction there sits up in frustration, disappointment. I think he feels as though that it was a fumble. It's just unbelievable the refs were so quick to call this an incomplete pass. It should have been reviewed. Anyone watching this' initial reaction, including A.J. Brown's, was that this was a fumble. It should have been called a fumble on the field and then reviewed to be determined incomplete. But of course, the refs come in, have sharp eyes against the Buffalo Bills, call it an incomplete pass, and that's how it stands. We could see A.J. Brown catch it, tucks it, turns upfield, puts 2 feet on the ground. Not one holding call against the Philadelphia Eagles in this game, and we saw several instances of it. A pass interference call, but it was negated because of a Buffalo Bills offensive holding, and also the roughing the passer on Josh Allen, in which Josh Allen had to act and throw himself back in order to get the foul. The Bills got screwed all game long by the refs, having 10 penalties for 75 yards in the first half alone. And then, of course, in overtime, the pass interference on Stefon Diggs, in which he was pulling Stefon Diggs' jersey. Should have been pass interference. Sean Hochuli and the refs did everything they could to keep this game close for whatever reason. And I truly believe the refs totally decided to screw the Buffalo Bills in this game. Even Tony Romo, Jim Nantz, and Gene Salvatore even openly admitting, like, that was a penalty. That was pass interference. That was a horse collar. That wasn't hardly holding. Why is it that NFL refs are not being held accountable for their actions? Why aren't they being fined? Why aren't they having to go and publicly explain themselves after games as to why they ruled things? Why do we have to have Gene Salvatore and people from New York try to discuss things and how these refs are ruling? I think the discrepancies on a game-to-game basis, the discretion between ref to ref groupings in the NFL is an utter disgrace. I truly believe if the Bills did not have 11 penalties for 80 yards, we would have definitely won this game. The proof is there that Sean Hochuli and these NFL refs turned a blind eye to the Philadelphia Eagles and just really refused to call any penalties against them, but were ticky-tacky against the Buffalo Bills, seeing holding penalties, illegal use of hands, intentional grounding and encroachment, everything that was called against the Buffalo Bills. Why did they have such good vision on these penalties against the Buffalo Bills, but again, turned a blind eye against anything for the Eagles? The Bills were not only playing the Philadelphia Eagles, they were playing the Zebras in this game, and the refs. We still almost won in overtime. It just goes to show you how good the actual Buffalo Bills really are. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles, probably one of the best teams in the NFL, and they also have help from the referees in this game. Absolutely ridiculous. This just proves the Bills are capable of beating anyone in the NFL, especially in an away stadium. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe. That's how you would support my efforts for making videos just like this. Also, check the link in the description. We still have free shipping on the Buffalo Chicken Wing merch. We have hoodies, we have long sleeve, we have t-shirts, all different colors too. We got black, we have gray, we have red, we have blue. But I appreciate every single one of you guys. The roadmap to the playoffs is still not over, but man, we got to beat these freaking referees. Appreciate you, and go Bills.